So Sunday, where I inspire you. Or it did. Yeah, sure. Just have fun. So, I did. Yeah. So, today I'm going to finish what I started last week, which is a no-name project. I haven't even named this because I just been working on it, creating it. But teaching you how to make it as I create it, because that's what I do. Um, so I kind of mostly got things done to speed up the process during this live stream. But can you hear? Does everyone hear me now? Can you hear me now? I have no idea what is wrong with this sound. They're saying yeah.
Oh, now they say yes.
I have no idea what is going on. All of my sound devices are not working. This is the weirdest thing. I think it has something to do with the fact that the charging port on my phone also is not working. So I don't.
Well, last week none of the cameras were working.
Yeah,
either.
none of my stuff was working. I don't know what's going on here, but I'm gonna have to figure out the problem sooner or later.
The black dots too. They were all.
I don't know what was on the screen. It usually shows a picture of Tiffany's quilting life. I don't know why there was a screen of a thing, but anyways, let me start over. Hi, I'm Tiffany. Welcome to my quilting life. Today's Sunday, Sew Sunday, where I inspire you to sew on a Sunday or any day of the week at that matter. Now that I have repeated myself, let me repeat the rest of everything since there was no sound. I was working on last week a no-named project, just randomly creating something fresh and new for you guys, telling you all the instructions along the way. I have not thought of a name for this, and by the time I am completely done, I'll think of a name and I'll rename the two videos, last Sunday and today's video, of what this is called. You guys could even throw some ideas out there when we start seeing it as a whole, if you want to, because I name everything, and well, you know, I at least attempt to name everything.
Ask them again if they can hear you. I'm getting
Nobody
both,
can
yes
hear
and
me
no.
now?
I'm getting both. So I don't know. Ask them again.
I am just going to see for myself. It's working just fine.
Okay. Well, it could be people that aren't caught up.
Yeah. Just change your playback speed to catch up with the video, guys. Change it to 2 times and it'll automatically put it at regular speed when you're caught up. So everything's working. It is working. Anyway, where was I? So I guess sound is just going to be directly from the device again. I don't know why I'm having struggles with sound. So I started this project last Sunday. If you guys want to go and follow last Sunday's video after today and say, oh, I want to make this, it's quite easy. We made this block right here, and I'm going to show you how to make it. So I kind of went ahead and did a lot of stuff here ahead of the thing to shorten the length of this video so that I'm not on forever, because I kind of want to, I try not to make it more than 2 videos worth for some of these projects, because this is a small quilt. So I'm trying to, I have things in advanced sections, but I am going to show you how to remake this block 2 more times technically, because I saved 2 blocks in my little project bag here so I could get out my stuff.
Are you going to do the
So we
instructions
used,
for cutting again?
No, I'll tell you, yes, as I go for instructions. So it was a half of a layer cake. There was 20 squares, and with those 20 squares, we also pulled a yard and a half, or I think it was a yard and a half of background fabric. Maybe it was only a yard because I haven't used very much of it so far. Might have just been a yard. Don't quote me on that, but it's under a yard and a half worth of background fabric, which I have white for. This is the last of what I have. And then I pulled a fabric yardage for accents and border, and I haven't used much of it yet, but I'll get to that in a second. We're just going to review making the blocks, and I'll review the cutting sizes. Stick that for there. So I have my pieces here. What we did last week was we took a 10-inch square, And that 10-inch square was cut into,
What fabric line is that?
the fabric line is Bloomington Lella Boutique by Moda. All right, so what I'm going to do, what we did was we took a 10-inch square and we cut it in half. So we made two 5 by 10-inch pieces, separated one, cut that in half, creating two 5-inch squares. Now this whole project can be done with 5-inch squares if you wanted to. So we made two 5-inch squares. One of them we kept 5 inches, which would be, I'm just gonna move my pieces, which would be this piece. The other one of that 5-inch square we subcut into 4 2.5-inch squares. Then we took the remaining 5 by 10-inch piece, we split it in half at 2.5 inches, so two 2.5-inch by 10-inch pieces, turned them to the side and subcut them into 2.5-inch squares. Then we took our yardage, and I do not remember, don't quote me on this, but I think we cut like 8 1-inch strip. No, hold on, gotta think about this for a second. 8 2.5-inch strips, and we cut those into 2.5-inch squares, and then we pieced them together on the diagonal from corner to corner, and then cut away the excess to remain with a 2.5-inch square. Then we hooked those 2.5-inch squares together by subcutting 8 1-inch strips, and we turned those into 1-inch by 2.5-inch pieces, and we put them in between, creating a separated flying geese unit. That separated flying geese unit has become the 4 star legs that you see here. So we have 4 star legs, they go in and out, and then the 4 extra singles that you cut, the 2.5-inch squares, go around the outside, and all of it surrounds that 5-inch square. So those are the cutting things. And if anything, and you want to follow along, go back to last week's. It says part 1 on it, has the same name as this video, except for the fact that it says part 1. Go back to that, because everything I'm saying today could be wrong. I showed it all then, and I don't always remember from one week to the next, but I know what I did. I just don't always remember how many strips I cut. So that was that, and now we need to put it together to create this. So I saved 2 blocks to show you guys how they are put together, so that way you know how they're put together, and then we'll move on to the next step. So I have them laid out in front of me. I'm just going to kind of move this up, and you can see that I have my points to my spaced flying geese units. They are facing in towards the center 5-inch square all the way around. That is how we get our star legs right here, is if it's facing in. So I'm going to take this top piece and its first piece right here, so a 2.5-inch square, and my 4.5 by 2.5 separated flying geese unit, and I'm going to hook these two together with a 1/4-inch seam, and I'm using a like 2.20 or 2.0 stitch length, if you guys needed to know. And then I'm going to leave that on the machine, and I'm going to grab the next 2 pieces, which is my 5-inch square and this, and I'm going to make sure when I put this right sides together that my point is the side that I'm sewing on. And I'm also going to watch for my point, because I'm going to cross over right above where they come together so that I don't lose any points, although I did in this whole project. There's plenty of points lost, but if you're trying to be particular about it, make sure you watch those points. And then I'm going to take my last 2.5-inch square with my other unit right here, my other split flying geese unit, and I'm going to hook those together. And then I'm going to break thread, and I'm going to press out towards the 2.5-inch square, in towards the 5-inch square, and out towards the 2.5-inch square. They're hooked together, can't get them out of order. I'm going to grab my next piece, which is now going to go on the right-hand side, and I'm going to sew it on.
Angela says the name is Shattered Stars.
Shattered Stars, that's a good one. I'm going to put this one on here now, the split flying geese unit. Again, being mindful of where my points land. And then my last 2.5-inch square down here on the bottom.
And we have blooming stars.
That's a good one too. Move that out of the way. Is the chatbot working, by the way?
No, I tried. It's not.
Oh. If everything just goes wrong, then that wouldn't, you know, it wouldn't be a good video. Everything has to not work. All right, so now my pieces are together and I cannot get them out of order.
It wouldn't be one of our videos if everything worked.
Yeah, if everything worked, it wouldn't be a Tiffany's Quilting Life video. So now I'm going to take this top one and I'm going to put it right sides together with the middle. And I'm going to nest my seam right here between the top piece. That's my first seam. And then the bottom one is also going to be my second seam. So I'm going to sew to that seam, leave the needle down, and then adjust this bottom one. What did you say?
T-star.
T-star? I don't know. Good ideas, guys. All right, now that that's sewn, I'm going to take this piece, right sides together, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to nest my seams. You can put pins in them if you want. I never pin. I just hold it with my finger. Stop with the needle down. Go to the next seam. Hold it with my finger. And then this final press is in towards the center on both of these that we just added. So I pressed both of this side and this side in towards the center. It lays flatter that way. So here's one. Stay. I'm going to move that to the side and I'm going to go ahead and repeat that process with the second one. I wanted to make sure that you guys saw the block being put together again. That way you knew before I moved on to the next step. This is quite fun and definitely different looking so far. All right, now I'm going to add my other side. Same thing. Making sure that my points are facing in on all of these towards the center. Because I don't want my star legs to be the wrong direction. All right, I'm going to finger press away from, and then towards the center for the big one, and then away from on the bottom. Again, making a piece that looks like this. And I mixed and matched all my pieces. You could just keep all your stars the same color from each layer cake piece. So from each square, your original square, you can keep all your colors together if you want to. I mixed and matched mine. So it's kind of scrappy at the same time as it's a controlled scrappy because this is all from the same fabric line. And I know there's some people out there, like this could be done with super scrappy, you know, just anything you want to do it with. There are some out there that like scrappy like me, and some that like controlled scrappy, and some that just have to have everything in order. So I totally get it. All right, now I'm going to connect this other side. I'm just nesting my seams with my finger, holding it in place. I sew right up to it. Then I line up the other side and use my finger to hold it in place. And then I finger press for now towards the center. So there's blocks, 2 blocks. Can you press these, please?
Oh, I get the iron?
Yeah. I need them flat. Move my project bag, I guess, back here. All right. The next step is to take your we're moving on. We're going to make some units, and I already made all of them. I forgot to leave 2 or 3 out just because. So I'm just going to tell you what I did in hopes that you understand exactly what I did. So I'm going to take my white background fabric, and what we're looking for is we are making units that look like this. Now, if you used only 20 layer cake squares to make this, you are going to need where am I at? 8 1.5 inch strips off of your white background. That's 8 1.5 inch strips. Then the next thing you're going to need, I'm just going to bring my little thing that I was doing earlier. I made sure I wanted to tell you the exact numbers because I totally kind of went ahead of myself. And then let's see, where am I at? All right, and then you're going to take those 8 strips of your background fabric and you're going to stack them up and subcut them to 1.5 by 4.5 inch pieces. You'll get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You'll get 8 per strip. So you'll get 8 1.5 by 4.5 inch pieces per every white strips, per every 8 1.5 inch strips that you have cut off of your yardage. And then after you cut those strips and subcut them into 4.5 inch subcuts, we're going to take our accent color, which I used this, and we're going to make some cuts on that as well. So if you're writing this down as I go to go with your notes from last week, I just love that you guys do that. A lot of you have told me over time that you guys are writing it down just because you want to make it. And I don't write patterns, so I guess it works. Thank you.
Oh.
Just lay them right there.
Huh?
So from my accent, I need 1 strip that is 1.5 inches off of my accent color / border fabric, because I'm using the same border fabric as my accent to bring it all together. So 1 1.5 inch strip, and you're going to subcut that into 1.5 inch squares. You will get all the 1.5 inch squares that you need from your 1 strip and subcut into 1.5 inch squares. From that same accent color, for the part that we are going to be doing is this right here. Okay, so the accent color is also going in between here because we're creating a secondary pattern in all of this. You are going to cut 2 strips, and I know you guys are going to hate me for this, 2 1-inch strips. You really hate me now, aren't you? So you need 2 1-inch strips from your accent color or your accent border color.
Why would they hate you?
Because a lot of people don't like the really skinny, tiny pieces.
Oh.
So you're going to cut 2 1-inch strips, and then you're going to turn that and subcut them into 1.5 inch pieces. So from those 2 strips, those 1.5 inch subcuts from your 1-inch strip, you get 1.5 inch subcuts. You will use all those as well. So just know you'll get quite a few of them, but you're going to use every single one of them. So don't worry about that. And that's all for the subcuts. So once you have all that stuff cut, I'm just going to throw that out of the way for a minute. What you're going to do, we're going to move on to the next step this quick. Like, woof, I'm just blowing right through it because I went ahead of myself. You're going to take...
You were busy this week. Huh?
Yes, I was busy. You're going to take 2 4.5 inch pieces, 2 4.5 by 1.5 inch pieces, and you are going to take your 1 inch by 1.5 inch piece, and you'll only know it goes the 1.5 inch direction with the 1.5 inch width of your 2 strip pieces, your little subcuts. You're going to attach a 1 inch by 1.5 inch piece in between 2 4.5 inch pieces, and you're going to do that to every single 4.5 inch strip. So make 2 piles of, I think it's 20 30, I don't remember. It's a large number. Just make 2 equal piles and make sure that way you don't over put on too many of these, because my cutting gave you like a few extra 1 by 1.5 inch pieces. So it's like, I don't know, 6 or 8 extra. I don't remember, but just know, make 2 equal piles and take your 1.5 background with by 4.5, hook it to a 1.5 by 1 inch little piece to another 1.5 by 4.5 inch rectangle. And this is the unit we're looking for. And you're going to make all of these just like this. So once you have those together, it's time to lay the quilt out, the pieces, on your design wall, design floor, wherever you want them, and put your blocks where you want them. For this part, I'm going to tip the camera down so that you guys can see my jumbled disaster going on here, so that you can get a general idea of how this is going to go.
Do you want me to do that?
No, I got it.
The camera.
All right, so we're going to tip you guys down to where you see the whole entire cutting mat as best as possible right here. So here are all of my pieces, and here's my last 2 that I just sewed, and I saved parts. So lay all your pieces out so that you know where everything is going to land. And this is what it's going to sort of look like. We're just going to keep those overlapped, but I want you to see what's going on here. Just like this.
How has your pain been? They're all asking if you're feeling better.
I am not feeling better. I am having a bad day, but we're going to live and we're going to make it through this, because that is what I do. All right. So you guys can see here, this is the craziness that sits in my head right here. This whole pile. This is what sits in my head. So our next step is to take those 1.5 by 4.5 inch pieces with your 1 inch by 1.5 inch piece hooked to your 1.5 by 4.5 inch piece, and we're going to attach that to, because we're using 20 blocks here, we're going to attach it to your top 4 across by 5 down. You're only going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 15 of your blocks are going to have the sashing on the right. If you're looking at it, it's on the right. For you guys, it's probably on the left, but your sashing is going to be on the right hand side.
How big are the cornerstones?
We'll get to that in a second. I'm not there yet.
Okay. They asked.
Yeah. So there's that. 15 blocks. Attach your sashing strip that looks like this right here. We're going to attach that to the right hand side of 15 of your blocks. Okay. So you can tip the camera back up. I skipped out on doing 1 block for the sashing on the side, so you can tip the camera back up.
Yes, I heard you. I'm right here. Where it's looking at you again?
Yep.
Is that good?
Yep. All right. So here's the unit, and here's my block. Okay. I'm going to make sure it was the way I wanted it. Yeah, right there. I'm going to take it and put it on the right hand side, and what we're going to do is we're going to match up the end. Then we're going, press your seams towards your background fabric, by the way, on your little unit. Press them out towards the background, not in, because your other units, they're pressed in. I forgot that. Big point. Make sure you do that. Press all of the pieces out, away from this little center piece. But what we're going to do is match up the ends. That should give you a 9-inch piece, by the way, to match your block. We're going to match up the ends, and then I'm going to nest the seams right here at this junction. So it's going to be laying. Let me see if I can't hold them together like this. Like this. You're going to nest those seams when it's right sides together. So I'm going to go ahead and start sewing. I'm going to nest it and hold it with my finger. I can hold both seams with my finger because They're literally right here at my hand. So I'm just going to go over that one, keep the needle down, and the second. So on 15 of your blocks, you're going to be putting on your piece to the right hand side of 15 blocks. And I say lay them out first because that gives you the general idea of how you want it to be laid out. Just go ahead and pick up your blocks and attach your piece to it. So that's the block we should have now with it on one side. So now that it is on the side of all 15, you're going to take your whole right side row, this whole side row to the right, and we're going to attach one to the bottom. Okay, just the bottom only. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. And I saved out 2 to do this with. So I'm going to go ahead and attach 2 of these. Same procedure. It's going on the bottom, so I need to make sure it's on my bottom. I laid these out so I didn't have 2 colors next to each other. So I'm going to nest my seam. Just going to hold it in place. So on through. I'm finger pressing towards my background fabric because it lays best that way. So again, it's going to look exactly the same, except this is on the bottom of 1. So on 4 of them, it goes on the bottom only. Sorry about that. And 1 does not get it on any side. 1 block does not get any sashing on it at all. Okay. That goes that way. That goes that way. Yep. So 4 of them get it on the bottom only. 15 of them get it on the right hand side. And now those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 of them are going to get a cornerstone. So that we cut those 1.5 inch squares. We cut a 1.5 inch strip off of our accent and then subcut that into 1.5 inch squares, and you only cut 1 strip. That gives us a cornerstone. So the rest of your pieces, again, 15 of them get your piece like this on the right side only. And then what did I say? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 4 of them get them on the bottom only. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 12 of them get a cornerstone. So 12 of your pieces that are left over get a cornerstone. What are you looking for?
Just they keep asking.
It's just type it in there.
That's why I'm taking it.
Oh. So
I know what to type
again,
in.
we're going to 12 pieces are going to get attached to a 1.5 by 1.5 inch accent square. And you only cut 1 strip of that. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I think I left open. What did I leave open? 1, 2. Yep. Okay. So I left open 2. I got to find them. And 2. That was the first one I grabbed, and that's the second one. So this is now going to go on the bottom with your cornerstone. We're going to line that up, and now you have 3 seams to nest. You have the attachment from the cornerstone, and that we pressed towards the background fabric, and then the other piece. So I'm going to nest that first seam, keep the needle down, same procedure. So I'm pre-building my sashing and cornerstone. It's a lot easier this way because the sashing has cornerstone. So again, I'm going to press that away towards the background fabric, and you should have a block that looks like this. So this one is going to go here. And I'm just going to leave that unpressed for now. And then this next one, that should have this. And you should have 1 leftover piece because we, overcut by 1 piece, which is no big deal. All right, so I'm just nesting those. Sew up to it. Line it up. So to the end. And then I'm going to finger press that back. And I hope I'm totally not confusing you guys. If you have to go back and rewatch, you know, if you want to make it. All right, and that's going to go right here. So now everything is together. All that I have to do now is piece the rows together. Simple as that. So again, from the beginning, I already said all that. That probably didn't confuse you. Watch last week's. But from this week, it was, just going to use my cheat sheet again. 1 strip of 1.5 inch accent fabric. Cut 1.5 inch strip and subcut that into 1.5 inch squares. You only need 1 strip because you need 12 1.5 inch squares. Then you're going to take from your accent also, and you're going to cut two 1 inch strips, and you're going to subcut those into 1 inch by 1.5 inch. And I totally did not count how many I needed. I just cut those 2 strips up, and the leftovers went to a pile. Then for the white part, which is your sashing color or your background color, you cut 8 1.5 inch strips, 8 strips that are 1.5 inches, and you're going to subcut those into 1.5 by 4.5 inch pieces. And that is for your inner sashing. You're going to piece those 2 pieces together with your 1.5 by 1 inch accent in between them. Do that to all of them, 2 equal piles. That way you're not overdoing it on one side. And then you're going to attach to 15 blocks on the right hand side only, and then 4 blocks you're going to attach to the bottom only, your little sashing piece, again this, and then 12 blocks you're going to attach the bottom with a cornerstone. So hopefully that made total sense. All right, moving on. You guys see how quickly I'm moving today? I went totally ahead of the game, and I shouldn't have gone that far ahead, but I'm sorry. I needed to get some of it done because I didn't plan to be on forever tonight because I already hurt. So, all right. So now it's all about just connecting all these together, and then we're going to take the rest. Once these are all together, which I can have that done quickly, we're going to take the rest of our white background fabric and we're going to be subcutting that into our first border. And then we're going to take the background fabric or the accent / border fabric, and we're going to subcut that out as well. So all I need to do now is start putting each row together. And there's lots of seams to nest along the way. So just know you need to nest your seams as you go. So I'm just going to hold them in place and try to nest it all up. And I do have to flip a single seam at the bottom because everything's pressed towards the white, which meant my sashing was too. Which is fine because once it's pressed, it'll be nice and flat. So I'm just going to go ahead and sew the rows, and you can ask Scott questions, and I'll try to answer them as best as I can along the way as I'm sewing the rows together.
You're ready to them. I'll do my best to answer.
Yeah.
There's over 300 people on, so
okay.
If you get too many questions, I just do my best.
You guys liking this project so far? I really am. I love it to see when my brain comes to life in actual fabric pieces. It's kind of, it seems like a jumbled mess, but once it comes together, it's always really cool. All right, so row 1 should look like this. You'll have a block,
They say you
a sashing, a block, a sashing, a block, a sashing. There's no sashing on the ends or on the top. It should only be across the bottom. So I'm just gonna put this row up here, and we're gonna go to the next row. And this should be like 50 something by 60 something. Don't quote me on that because I never know, but it's gonna be about that. Trust me, I know my half a layer cake size quilts. They always come out 50 something by 60 something. So that's what this should come out. I never know anymore because I suck at math. But there's nothing saying that you can't make it bigger. Just double the amount of everything, you know, to make it bigger. So you would use a full layer cake, and instead of 1.5 yards, you would use 3 yards, and you know, instead of a couple inches, your sashing and border fabric, you would use, you know, 1 yard of it. And I think to keep me from getting screwed up, I'm going to hook the rows together while I'm here, because that'll keep me from getting out of order. I'm going to take row 2 and row 1, and I'm going to put them right sides together. And I'm going to sew down this long seam, nesting every seam as I go. And then I think Scott could press these two.
You ready for me to iron?
Not yet. Gotta sew these together first. But first, I need a bobbin.
That would help.
Yeah. That's another thing I forgot to do. Forgot to roll bobbins. Good thing I had one left from last week. All right, where'd it run out? Right at the beginning, too. I'm going to nest the seams as I go. I'm going to nest my cornerstones as well. Technically, it's all cornerstones. One is a sashing cornerstone, and one is an actual corner. So, or you can call it a sashing unit in a cornerstone. I don't know. Whatever you want to call it. So this is 2 rows together that are not pressed yet, but that's the general idea. So Scott, if you could press this nice and flat for me.
Yes. So now you're ready for me to iron?
Yep.
I was waiting. Thumper's sleeping and I'm waiting.
I'm just going to give it a finger press for you. And I'll just make more rows while he does this. Here you go. All right, so I'm just going to grab row 3 and start putting that together. Again, nesting every seam. It's a good thing I chose a small project with so much seam nesting. Because if it was a whole layer cake, I would go crazy by now. You know, that's a lot of nested seams. But the final result will be fabulous.
What are the cuts?
For
if you can give the cuts again.
For the sashing.
Cuts, etc.
So to create the sashing strips, you're going to cut 8 1.5-inch strips, and you're going to subcut those into 4.5-inch subcuts, so 1.5 by 4.5 inch from all 8 strips. You will have 2 pieces left over. I obviously sewed mine. Then you're going to cut 2 1-inch strips from your accent, and you're going to cut a 1.5-inch strip from your accent. From the 1.5-inch strip, you're going to sub 1.5-inch strip. You're going to subcut that into 1.5-inch squares. And then you're going to, from your 1-inch strips, cut 2 of those of your accents. You're going to subcut those into 1.5-inch subcuts. So 1 inch by 1.5 inch.
What stitch size are you using?
I'm stitching with a 2.0 stitch length on here. It's equal to your digital machine that says 2.0. Mine, I just have the knob at 2. For my little tiny 1 inch by 1.5 inch pieces, though, I did stitch those together with a 1.8 stitch length. And the reason for that is because they're very small and I don't want them to fall apart as I'm putting the quilt together.
Should I leave this over here?
For a minute, yeah.
Okay.
I'm just nesting all these seams.
How long did it take you to cut all the pieces?
It took me like 5 minutes to cut all the pieces. I'm really quick with cutting. All right, so I'm gonna put those 2 rows together now. Nesting all the seams as I go. You can pin if you need to. I don't bother with any of that. Just nest them, hold them with my finger. If they're cut to the exact size and you're using a 1/4 inch stitch length continuously, you shouldn't have a problem. But I know lots of people like to pin and or use binding clips to hold your pieces steady. And if nothing matches up, oh well, because it's your quilt. You do what you want with it. So it wouldn't matter. Come on, get on there.
That's the whole point. Is they're quilting, they make it how they want.
The whole point is to have fun and enjoy the process. All right, so I'm going to give this a finger press and then hand it over to Scott while I make one last row and then attach all these rows together. Seem to have unthreaded my machine in the process. All right, Mr. Scotty, here's another one to press.
Yeah, I have 400 people. Just wait.
All right, last row. This one has no bottom sashing on this last row. So just remember your bottom and your top. No sashing on it. And your last and final piece has nothing on it. It's just a plain Jane square. We're still going to put a first border around it, though.
Where am I putting this other piece now? block size?
The finished block size should be 9 inches. I'm just gonna, just wait for a second. Hold on. Let me just put this one on here real quick. Just lay that right there.
Okay.
Thank you. Your block should be 9 inches. Your sashing with your little piece in it should be 9 inches as well. When they're put together.
Okay, I'm ready to iron.
You can wait a second because I'm sewing it.
You just told me to get over it.
Nesting all of my seams along the way. Trying to also keep the seams from flipping so that way, you know, the quilt lays as flat as I can possibly get it. I like a flat quilt. That's your whole goal. Especially if you're sending it to a long armor. They want it flat as you can be.
So the half square triangles are 2.5 inches?
Yes. The half square triangles should be 2.5 inches. Once they are sewn together, that you're sewing from corner to corner on those, and you'll trim away the excess, which I saved all my excess pieces to go with my pile of another quilt. There you go. Press that real quick. And then this is going to go this way when he's done with that, to hook the bottom to it. That's how you know if you have cornerstones and sashing along the bottom, you know that's your bottom. If you have nothing, you know that's the top.
Iron doesn't steam anymore. And this squeak. It worked. Oh, there we go. Now it wants to work.
Hopefully I didn't confuse anybody during this. And I'm just watching Scott press.
They don't want to watch you watch me press. Talk.
Oh, I don't know what to talk about. I'm having
Tell them the measurements
day.
that they keep asking.
The measurements I've said 500 times and I'm going to forget again. The original square, okay, how about all of everything from the start?
Yes, that's what I meant.
Half of a layer cake, 1.5 yards of fabric, and let's just say 3/4 of a yard for your outside border. And that's the same color as your accent color, which is the cornerstones. So you're going to take your 10-inch squares, you're going to cut them into, your subcuts are going to be, take the 10-inch square, cut it in half. So that gives you 2 5 by 10-inch pieces. Then you're going to take one of them and you're going to subcut that into 2 5-inch squares. Nothing to say you can't use a charm pack to do this. Take those 5-inch pieces, separate the 5-inch one and use that second one and subcut that into 4 2.5-inch squares. Set those aside because you're going to leave them whole. Then you're going to take the other 5 by 10-inch piece and you're going to slice that in half, 2.5 inches. So you'll have 2 2.5 by 10-inch pieces. Turn that subcut into 8 2.5-inch squares. Then you're going to take and all of those 2.5-inch squares, the 8 of them that you just made, you're going to cut. And again, I don't remember what I did last week, so you'll have to go to last week's video, but I think it's like 8 2.5-inch strips. So that, no, maybe it was 6 2.5-inch strips. I'm trying to think. I don't remember what I said last week because I didn't write it down. You're going to subcut some 2.5-inch strips from your yardage into 2.5 by 2.5-inch squares, and you're going to sew those on the diagonal from corner to corner. You can either draw a line, use diagonal seam tape, or press a line to sew on from corner to corner. Then you're going to trim away the excess. You're going to piece it with your 4 2.5-inch squares that are solid on the outer sides, your 5-inch square in the middle, and you're going to take some 1-inch strips and you're going to attach those between your 2.5-inch pieces of half square triangles, creating a separated flying geese unit from your yardage. I think this is where it goes. And then, sorry, while I'm trying to talk, I'm already, from that yardage, you cut the 1-inch strips to go in between the 2.5 inch. That's your next step, obviously, before you put the block together, is putting those in. Refer to last week's video. I probably say it correctly. Then today's video, you're going to cut 8 1.5 inch strips. You're going to subcut those into 4.5 inch by 1.5 inch pieces. Make 2 piles, equal piles. When you pick them up, 2 equal piles. And in between there, you're going to cut from your accent color 2 1-inch strips, and you're going to subcut those into 1 inch by 1.5 inch pieces. So subcut 1.5 inch segments. Just cut it all up, no big deal, because there's going to be like 6 or 8 that you don't use. I totally forgot how many I didn't use. Then you're going to take those 1.5 by 4.5 inch pieces and put them together, creating a unit that looks like this, just like this. And you're going to attach that to the right hand side of 15 of your blocks. Remember, we're only using 20 blocks. Then you're going to attach it to the bottom of 4 blocks, this unit that we made. And then you're going to take the rest of the pieces except for 1, because and you're going to take and subcut. You're going to cut off 1.5 inch strip from your accent color, just 1, and subcut that into 1.5 inch squares. Then you're going to attach those 1.5 inch squares to the end right here, creating a unit that looks like this of your last of your pieces. Then you're going to attach that to 15 of your blocks, right? No, 12 of your blocks. 15 was just the sashing on one side. So 12 of your blocks, you're going to attach your piece with your cornerstone on it. And then assemble in rows, which I have done, and the rows into a quilt. All right. So let's get this together, this last seam, and then we're going to cut some more fabric. Usually when I cut on camera is when I repeat myself 500 times, but because I did this ahead of time, accidentally went a little too far, I kind of, don't know everything. So like I said, just refer to part 1, which is linked in the description of this video. And part 1 will get this video's link in it. That way they're easy to find. And now I'm just making sure that I nest all the seams as I sew it together. So if you're making yours with a whole entire layer cake or 4 charm packs, which makes a layer cake, then you will just have to double the amount of cuts. So instead of 8 cuts here or 6 cuts there, you would make 12 or 16. Because you're going to need twice the amount. Twice the amount of yardage, so on and so forth. All right, Mr. Scotty, after this, you'll have 1 more seam to press down this whole
Okay.
thing.
Sounds good. I will get her done.
Let me just finger press it for you. So that way it stays back. And then we're going to cut some background fabric again for our first border. Here you go. This is the seam that you're pressing since everything else has been pressed. This one.
You should tell me that before I unplug the iron.
Oh, I thought you figured I had 1 seam left. Got to connect the 2 pieces.
No, I asked if I was done.
Oh, I didn't know what you were saying. All right.
Well, I
From my background fabric, we're going to cut some more fabric. So I have,
right here?
a quarter yard left pretty much.
White one right here?
Yeah.
Just ironing straight down.
All right. For that first border, I'm just going to cut 1.5 inch strips. I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 strips. I need 5 1.5 inch strips. And I already have a straight line, so all I have to do is cut 5 1.5 inch strips.
Okay. Can I iron them?
Huh?
Am I ironing them?
One they're put on, yeah.
Okay.
2.
Where are those going?
Around it now.
Oh, so that's a border.
3. We're cutting 5 1.5 inch strips to go around the outside. This is because I'm using making a smaller quilt. If I was making something bigger, I would need more strips. And look, that's how much yardage was left from whatever I said I used last week. I'm pretty sure it was 1.5 yards, or maybe just 1 yard. I don't know. All right. First things first. I am going to attach 1 strip up here and 1 strip on the bottom. And I am going to cut it to size real quick. Literally, you guys are going to be like, why are you doing that? Woo, you're weird and crazy, girly. Guess what? It always lands where I want it to, so that's a good thing. So I'm just going to cut it to size because I don't feel like measuring. Just laying it on here. I'm not stretching or anything. I'm not stretching, tugging, or pulling. Just keeping it nice and flat. And that's where it's going to land. I'm going to trim that away right at the end. Set that aside. And now I'm going to sew this on, and then I'll repeat with the bottom. So this is exactly the size I need it to be. I'm not going to go ahead and measure and get the, I mean, you can measure and get the 3 numbers to know where, you know, the average size for your border piece, but I just, you know, it's better than cutting afterwards, I guess. I don't know. I think it comes out exactly the same no matter which way I do it. I'm not stretching or pulling anything. I just have my strip laying on here. A little bit oversized because the piece itself is, that's okay. Why? Because I could trim it to the size it needs to be. I don't have many problems with wonky borders. Like some people say you'll have a wonky border if you don't do it a certain way, but so that was one way of doing it, measuring it to size. The other way is just to cut it after it's sewn on. So take a piece, trim the selvage away, line it up, sew it on, and trim it when I get close to the end. Which I've done that a bazillion times too. I don't stretch or pull anything. So it should stay pretty flat the whole entire, you know, way along. And I showed you guys this in the Layer Cake Madness video, how I do borders like this. Run till I get it to the end, I fold it onto itself nice and straight, folding it right at the edge, and then I cut it. So that is also cut to size. I might even have not needed 5 strips. We're going to see right now because that was an extra 10 inches. So I'm going to have to hook those, split it in half and hook it on. We're going to see right now. Mr. Scotty, will you press these back, please?
Yeah.
definitely needed a second strip. Good. I'll cut just as many as
What am I
needed.
pressing?
These back.
Oh.
There's two of them, one on the top and one on the bottom.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right, so I'm going to take one of these strips, I'm going to split it in half. And I'm going to use one for this one and one for this one. Cut the salvage off. I'm going to put these two ends together and sew a 1/4 inch seam. If my thread didn't break. Come on. Now I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam. There's one, and then I'm going to cut the salvage off of this one. And grab this other end and sew these together. So that all 5 strips are getting used. I'm just going to finger press to one side or the other, doesn't matter, on both of these pieces. I'm going to cut the selvage off the short end because that will be where I start, and the other end I'll fold when I get to the edge. Just going to lay it right there. And lay that right here on my lap. So much fuzz everywhere.
Oh, you waiting? I'm done. I didn't know you were ready.
Yep. All right, now to attach to the sides.
Well, you have to tell me. There's no.
All right, so I'm going to find the end that I cut the selvage off because the other end still has the selvage on it. I'm going to make sure that my seam is facing me, so right sides together. I'm going to attach this on in the same manner by just cutting it when I get to the end. Once it's on my table, I'm going to fold it onto itself to where there's a fold at the very end at that other piece of border. Fold it onto itself, smush it down, and cut it away. So that's the leftover back stitch. Now to do the opposite side. Grab my piece. Make sure that it's right sides together because I have sewn it with the seam on the inside accidentally before when I've used solids. Got to pay attention to that part. it's on the table, again, onto itself. Keep it nice and straight. I kind of roll it to the end. If you need to know how I do borders, refer to the Layer Cake Madness video or any other video that I show up close, because obviously you guys are far away and can't see that. All right. Now to press these back. And while these are being pressed back, we're going to choose the size we want for the final border. And I'm kind of thinking that I want it big. I'm thinking like 5 inches. I think I want to finish this with a nice big border. But I don't want it to be overwhelming. So maybe 4 inches. Yes. Yeah. I like to finger press before passing it to Scott.
It's because you don't trust my ironing.
Well, I don't
That's
want
why
any.
she does it.
I don't want any folds or pleats. He has pressed folds and pleats into my stuff before, so I just push it back out of the way.
It's all because I don't have squeak. Without a good partner, you know, you can't be
iron
perfect.
press. Like
Yeah.
You can't iron right.
Hey,
So the sides now.
which one?
The
This-
ones that I just sewed
this
on.
one?
Yes.
This one and the other?
All right. I think I'm going to go with 4 inch for my next border. All right. Because either way, that would need.
Oh,
I
wait.
said 3/4 of a yard for a small project like this.
Question we
and
used to get all
we-
the time, and we haven't had it for a while. Where'd you get your stickers?
Stickers on my machine.
Yeah,
The
you're
stickers
big
are
customer.
from urbanelements.com. They were a gift to me, but that's where they came from. So I would have used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a yard. If you're going to do a 4-inch border, a yard of your border / accent color. And I'm going to go ahead and cut 4-inch strips off of here, and I'm going to cut 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1 more. 5. All right. So 2 of them for the top and bottom. And then 1 is going to get split in half, the same procedure as last time for the other border. Split it in half, and I'm going to cut the salvages both off of this.
We have regular YouTube, right?
We have what? Regular
Yeah,
YouTube?
they asked if we have regular YouTube or a special program like Restream. I don't know what that is.
No, I'm just using YouTube.
We have regular YouTube. I don't know what the other stuff you're talking about is.
I do, and no, I'm not using that. All right, so half of one of these is going to get hooked to this, right sides together, and then the other one is going to get hooked to the other one. Just going to line them up. No, I did
Do
not.
you want me to leave this up here for a minute?
For a minute, yes.
Okay.
And then grab the other one. Oops, I got to cut away my salvages real quick. No, I just use regular YouTube because the goal for most people that are on YouTube is to get to 1,000 subscribers. 1,000 subscribers allows you to stream directly from YouTube, which is what I've always done. I usually don't use any program unless I'm on my computer doing multiple cameras. But lately, that whole multiple camera thing has not been working because I don't know why. I don't know what's wrong with all my camera-y stuff.
It used to work.
Everything used to work just fine, and then all of a sudden everything stopped working. Started having problems. Even my mic is not working in my cell phone, which is what it was purchased for, was my cell phone.
And that used to work too.
Yep.
2 weeks ago, it worked fine.
All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is connect a top and bottom. Oh, I forgot to cut the selvage off, so I'm just going to kind of put it over beyond. Usually I connect the sides first and then do top and bottom, but because of the top and bottom is the length of one strip, instead of having to piece everything together, I'm doing those first. Just putting it on. With a 1/4 inch seam. And my fabric does not go with this line. Like, it's not part of this line, my border and cornerstones, but because I put it as the accent color and the border color, it kind of is going to bring it all together. It looked good with it, so that was, you know, why I chose it. All right, so I'm just going to fold this onto itself and cut away when I need it, the size that I need it to be, I mean. Go ahead and do the bottom now. I should straighten this out real quick. I did cut, lay it over farther because of the selvage, so I'm just going to straighten that off now. All right, I'll put this one on. I'm just going to cut the selvage away now. That way it's nice and straight. Right sides together. All right. Sew this out. Once it's on here, I just fold it on top of itself, line it up with the edge where I need it to be, and make a cut. There's plenty of ways to do borders. This is how I do mine, and I don't ever have a problem with it. So, and I've been doing this since I started. As one thing I have never done is actual measurements of the 3 sizes to know my border size. Even on my winning quilts in shows, I never put those on correctly, and my quilts came out just fine. All right, so I'm going to finger press for now. This back, I just attach the sides, and then I'll press the whole thing and show you guys. I've never done anything the way like they teach you in real classes and stuff. I've always done different, always. And I've never really had a problem. I mean, in the beginning I was learning, so I did have issues, and you know, everything was cut by scissors anyway. So nothing, it was always wonky because I never cut a straight line off of my yardage. And then I got my first yardstick, which is right here. I still use it. And if you have ever looked at this thing up close, you'll see gash marks in it that are definitely splinter hazards. Because I used to use it when I got my first rotary cutter, I used to use that as my ruler. And well, let's just say rotary cutters and wood don't make a great team. They definitely clash, and you create splinters, and that's when you cut fingers and so on and so forth, because that's when it happened. It was in the beginning when I was learning. All right, I'm going to go ahead now and just line this up, sew this on, cut the selvage away as straight as I possibly can. Why? Because I really could care less. It's going to be
All
great.
this fabric was donated, right?
What?
All this fabric you're using was donated?
Yes, this was a donated fabric, and this was a donated. The only thing I purchased here is the white. We buy white by the bolt. So this is all donated fabric. Like I tell you guys all the time, those of you who want to send things, I don't ask for anybody to send me anything. That has always been something that you guys out there in YouTube land have done for me, is send me stuff. And
But we do use it. It gets used.
To is not the word I'm looking for. To make it better. Yes, it was the word. I use every last bit of the things that people send me. It doesn't happen right away, but sooner or later you'll see me use something that you've sent me. So everything that's sent is used in one way or the other. And I either give it away, keep it, sell it. It just depends. And I've had people ask, why do I sell my quilts so cheap? And now you know why. Because most, well, not all, I can't say all, but a lot of stuff that I sell is from donations. I'm charging mainly for my time. And to support my channel, obviously. Because fabric is not cash money, so I have to make some kind of money to support my channel since YouTube pays crap. And yes, I said the word crap. YouTube is not an income source. I mean, it is, but don't think you're going to hit 1,000 subscribers and do good on YouTube, because that definitely does not happen. You will not become an overnight millionaire.
It's not YouTube. YouTube pays you just
Yeah.
like anyone else. It's not them that they're ripping people off. It's the fact that everybody thinks, oh, if you're a YouTube person, you're a star. No.
Yeah.
If you have 10 million fans, then yeah, but
You don't make much money. And you guys will see that when you further in. If you have 1 million subscribers, then
that's what I
maybe
just said.
you make more money.
Yeah,
Those
in the
people all
millions.
live in nice houses, I've noticed. I watch a couple people that have a few million, and they buy things purposely just to try. So they'll spend $5,000 on something just to do a YouTube video with it. And I'm like, why are they cutting that up?
What?
You know, they'll buy clothes and stuff. It's funny.
What Pellon do you use for your pocketbooks?
I use whatever I find on sale or what I can get a yardage of. Usually Pellon 911 FF. That's like my main one.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't sure.
For bags, it's different though. Bags I use the Pellon also, but I also use Decaville Light, and I also use foam, or I'll use Pellon and some batting. I don't ever use fusible fleece or anything like that.
Is the 911 fusible?
Yes. That's what the FF is for, fusible featherweight. If you guys didn't know what those letters stand for, by the way, after certain interfacings by the Pellon brand, FF is fusible featherweight. Alright, fold it on top of itself. Yeah, make my cut. And I used all 5 strips. And I'm going to press this back real quick because I'm faster than Scotty getting up while he's sitting there with a computer in his lap.
I could have done that.
Fine.
You just don't like my iron. I'm sorry, but that iron is turning into, it's not steaming anymore. I can't get it to steam no more.
Put water in it.
It has water. It hasn't even used half a tank.
So adorable. Well, we can always go online and find the shark. It's probably a newer, updated version, though.
Probably.
Okay, so this quilt is going to
What color are you binding with?
probably the same fabric that I used on the border. Or the white. I don't like to bind in white very often, but when I have to, I will. It's not a color I choose for binding ever, because especially if they're utility quilts and they get drug around and thrown around, that white binding is going to be brown by the end of the day. All right, the quilt is done. Let's review it. Here it is. Let me see the whole thing.
Can't tell. I have to go over here. I have a delay on mine. Not quite, but almost. Do you want me to hold an end?
How
And we
about
can
you
come
just
down
hold
and
it
up.
over here, and I will move the camera over there.
Okay. What are you going to bind it in? What was that? I
No,
missed what
this
you were
way,
saying.
right here.
Okay, but the last question, I missed what your answer was.
Oh, I don't know what my answer was.
What color are you going to bind it in?
The same border fabric.
Okay, because I was curious too.
All right, you guys see the secondary designs coming out of here? I'm going to leave the camera right here for 2 seconds so that I could...
Well, take it down and they can see.
I can't.
Yes, you can.
I'm stuck in this corner.
You can move the whole thing down with the handle behind you.
And there is a kitty cat right there. He
They
lays
always
on
wanna
that
see
red
him.
bag. Okay.
Yep, he's been in
All
here
right,
the whole
stay right
time
there,
we've been
Scott.
working.
I'm going to come over and show you guys the secondary patterns. So first secondary pattern is right here. This right here is a shoe fly block. So you can see there's shoe fly blocks now popping out all over the place, as well as a 9 patch that pops out the look of it right here, as well as your stars. So it definitely has secondary patterns that come out. Oops, sorry. My room's only so big. So there's the whole thing. All right. Thank you, Scotty.
You're welcome.
Right there. Let me give you guys a final measurement. I do have to pass in front of the camera. My little area right here.
I could give you 5 blocks.
Aw, thank you, Becca. You know you don't have to do that, right?
You're not supposed to.
Thanks, Becca. Love you, my friend. All right, let's see our final measurement. Measuring tape, my good old measuring tape. I could like fold it and use my mat, you know, but Oh my goodness.
Well, we missed the message. There was a message with it.
Oh.
Oh, it said dibs.
Becca, you can't dibs every single quilt I make.
Your house is going to be covered with our quilts. It's supposed to be covered with yours.
Right? All right. It's 46. So 46 inches by... Oh, I'm going to have to do this one in half. So I was right. About 50 inches. I was right. 46 by... Oops. Put it somewhere where I can actually...
She says, oh, is that how it's supposed to work, dang?
56. 46, 56. Is that what I said? Or 47, 56.
Do you want to do it again? I was talking.
28 and 28 is 56, right?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I can do math in my head, sort of.
You did that quicker than me. It took me longer to do that.
And then we're going to do this one in half as well. 23 and 23 is 46.
Yes.
46, 56. 46 by 56, guys. So it's the perfect toddler crib size or lap size because I'm a small little one and this is like touching the floor. It's totally my size. How tall am I? I'm 5 foot. So it's almost as tall as me because I'm 5'2" and that's touching the floor and my head sticks out. So it's the perfect Tiffy size. I'm going to be covered in thread now because it's on me.
Well, you're 62 inches and that's 56. So it's almost you.
It's almost my size. So that's perfect. I can't wait to see you guys make it, and I don't know what to call it. So I will go through the comments later and see what you guys have all been saying. Unless you want to comment it in the comments after the video, so that way I can see it faster than trying to read the chat. Oh, Tracy, thank you very much. You guys don't have to do that. All right, there it is, all done. I don't know what to call it though, but it's definitely cute. And again, for those that like fabric lines, oh, where'd it go? What was
it's over
it called?
here. I've said it a ton of times. It's Bloomington by Lella Boutique.
Lella Boutique.
Moda.
Yeah. And see, my outside border fabric like goes perfect because the cornerstones are that as well. So it like brings it all together. Plus like the style of the print that the border fabric is kind of like goes perfectly with the prints here because it's a little mixture of leaves and flowers and like kind of looks like cobwebs. But that's because I was quilting cobwebs yesterday. So everything looks like cobwebs, you know? And no, I cannot show you. You'll see in a video sooner or later. I'm working on editing. That's what I was doing before the live stream while Teresa Louise was live. All right. So that's that. I'm done. Between last time's video and this time's video, if you write down all your little notes, I'm pretty sure you could make this with ease. And there are a few people that already emailed me and have told me that they're making it because they wanted to make sure. But this was like literally right after the video last week. So I knew exactly what I said last week. But it's been a week and my brain farted a bazillion times and says, I'm not going to remember that. So, but quite very easy to make. Definitely adorable quilt. And you can go bigger and bigger and bigger. So,
any questions?
Anybody have any questions? Because if not, I'm going to get in the pool. I'm going to do my exercises and then I'm going to lay in bed because really, I'm having a bad day. Can't tell by the smile on my face, but it's there. So, anybody have anything? Starfly because of the stars and shoe flies. Oh, that's a good one. I like
Fly
that.
stars. Starfly.
I like Starfly because there's so many stars and it becomes a shoe fly also.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Starfly. We're going to see. We're going to see other ones. We'll figure it out. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to get off of here. Thank you all for hanging out today. I'm glad all 414 of you are here. Thank you guys that also gave the super chats. That was awesome of you. And I will see you guys whenever I see you guys. I'm working on editing something. Some of you probably won't even watch it. It's long arm quilting. A lot of you do, a lot of you don't. No big deal, but I'm working on editing one of those, and that's all I have lately because I haven't really been doing anything. Today was the first day in here since last week. I really have not been doing anything. So, all right. Well, thank you guys all for hanging out, and I'll see you next time. And Scott will turn this off when he's done chit-chatting with you guys.
I guess what the fabric was, so I said it again.
Oh, okay. Well,
I'm trying to answer
all right, guys.
questions,
Have a good rest of your evening. Love y'all. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share my videos. Yeah, you do that.
Good night. What's that one? You do one video after this showing the backing and the quilting.
Oh yeah, there'll be a whole quilting video. I'll do a whole quilting video. No worries. No worries. I got you.
Okay. Now, good night. Again.